Killah Priest is perhaps the most well-known rapper out of all the Wu-Tang affiliates, of which there are many. With this, however, the New York rapper's huge discography has been largely ignored by most Wu-Tang listeners, and only recently has there begun to be a reevaluation of his sprawling career. With this video, I want to lay out the history of this metaphysical master to show you how he went from gritty Wu-Tang boom bap to drumless psychedelic poetry. Born on August 16, 1970, in Brooklyn, New York, Killah Priest, born Walter Reed, became interested in hip-hop as a child. Local figures such as Onyx's DJ Suave captured his attention, and he soon began rhyming on his own. According to him, however, he soon took a sabbatical from rapping to focus on learning about religion and history, something that would become crucial to his identity as a rapper. Did you know that Killah Priest was almost on the Wu-Tang Clan's debut album? Legend has it that both Priest and Master Killah were competing for the last verse spot on The Mystery of Chess Boxing from 36 Chambers, but Priest accidentally fell asleep, Master Killah recorded his verse, and the rest is history. Master Killah became the 9th official member of the clan, Killah Priest was left off of the debut album, and he was forever fated to be an affiliate rather than an official member of Wu-Tang. No shade to Master Killah though. I love that verse on The Mystery of Chess Boxing, and his 2004 debut, No Said Date, is actually quite good, and it's another very underrated Wu-Tang project. That's not to say KP was completely shunted from everything Wu-Tang, however. On Gravedigger's 1994 album 6 Feet Deep, he would be featured on 2 tracks, an album which most would agree is one of the best non-Wu Wu-Tang albums out there. What he's probably most known for, however, are his appearances on GZA's 1995 album Liquid Swords. I shouldn't even need to say it, but Liquid Swords is one of, if not arguably the, best rap album ever. RZA's dark and atmospheric production is out of this world, and GZA brings an incredible rapping performance. And also Killah Priest is here. He's featured on the amazing 4th Chamber, but most notably the final track on Liquid Swords is entirely Priest. Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, stylized as Bible, is a Killah Priest solo track and a song I've seen argued as the best track off this legendary album. After the grim nature of the previous 12 songs, Bible stands as a moment of hope, detailing Priest's spiritual journey of finding light out of the darkness of his surroundings. An amazing song and an indication of what Killah Priest's career would be like. In 1998, Killah Priest would release his debut album, Heavy Mental. Produced largely by 4th Disciple, Heavy Mental is a dark, mysterious, and spiritual album. Bible is on here, but also songs like the title track, a track that features KP spitting slam poetry over a didgeridoo heavy instrumental. It's one of the weirdest Wu-Tang related songs out there, especially for this period, and it's a portent of the boundaries Priest would push later in his career. I'm getting ahead of myself though. This album also has One Step, with a wonderfully catchy hook, as well as Cross My Heart, which has great verses from both GZA and Inspectah Deck. Overall, Heavy Mental is one of the strongest Wu-Tang albums of the 90s, and I'm not joking. It's kind of like Liquid Swords' strange cousin. Both are dark and lyrically heavy, but Heavy Mental pushes boundaries even further to make for a very unique experience. Killah Priest was also part of the group Sons of Man, who'd released their debut album, The Last Shall Be First, also called Natural High, in 1998 as well. This project, with members Hellraiser and Prodigal Son, is good, but not perfect. It's quite long, sitting at over 70 minutes, and could really use more Priest on it. He's pretty clearly the best rapper in the group. Not to say the other MCs are bad, but there's a pretty clear talent gap. The production is definitely enjoyable though, and I recommend it for those hungry for more Killah Priest. Priest's next 3 solo albums, View from Masada in 2000, Priesthood in 2001, and Black August in 2003, will go largely unnoticed. That's not to say they're bad. I especially like Black August, but most of these albums are marred by lackluster beats and weak hooks, which despite Killah Priest's consistently good rapping, definitely brings my enjoyment of these records down. I should also note that during this time, Priest was part of the hip-hop supergroup The Four Horsemen, with members Corrupt, Rascass, Cannabis, and then Priest himself. This sounds great on paper, but the main document of this group from this era is the Horseman Project in 2003, an album, mixtape, with a bit of a mysterious and sketchy history. This features great rapping, but with more weird production choices. Of note, This project also has some clipping issues, signs that it probably wasn't finished by the time it was actually released. Still, something of note. This period of weaker releases thankfully came to an end in 2007 with the release of The Offering. This album is hardcore hip-hop to a T, rapid-fire aggressive raps with his religiously conscious flair still in there. My favorite track, Gun for Gun, which features Nas, has the Priest bars, "I'll make Mussolini wear a kufi, I talk like Dr. Ben but look like Malcolm holding his Uzi," which are great. This record has Priest back on better production, as notably probably the most violent KP album out there. His voice is commanding, and the rhymes are militant, making for a really great listen. Of note, the Four Horsemen also make an appearance here on the track Inner G. Overall, this is a great hardcore hip-hop album, especially for fans of rappers like Cannabis and Rascass. Overlooked. I've alluded to this fact, but Killah Priest has released a lot of music, so much that it would be kind of ridiculous for me to talk about each one in this video. In fact, over his 4 decades of activity, KP has dropped over 30 albums, not counting mixtapes, and even I'll admit I haven't heard every single one. So here I'm going to skip a few. I'll briefly mention 2008's vaguely medieval-themed Behind the Stained Glass, and 2009's Elizabeth, Introduction to the Psychic, which are probably his most notable releases from the late aughts to early 2010s. A consistent theme throughout this era, however, is weak production and even weaker hooks, something that thankfully doesn't stick around forever. I'd only really recommend this period for dedicated KP fans, but even then, he has so much great late career music that it'll take a while to get to that point. 2013 marks what I would call Killah Priest's second, and even better, comeback, with the massive The Psychic World of Walter Reed. Sitting at a whopping 2 hours and 16 minutes, Walter Reed is a huge but worthwhile undertaking. It's on this album that KP first starts to really embrace his psychedelic side to great effect. This album covers so much ground, from classic gritty bangers to ethereal space trips, it's hard to sum up. I will note that on this project, Priest fixes one of his biggest weaknesses, that being his production choices. The beats on Walter Reed are amazing, with instrumentals from, including but not limited to, RZA, Fourth Disciple, Jizza, and notably an up-and-coming producer by the name of Jordan Riverbanks. Remember that name for later. Despite its huge length, Walter Reed is all killer, no filler, and even has the return of Wu-Tang features, as we get verses from Ghostface Killah, Inspector Deck, RZA, and Raekwon. This album even has a George Clinton feature. The bulk of the project is mostly Priest though, and he's in top form, telling stories, dropping crazy rhyme schemes, and exploring the abstract with weird bars about ghosts, aliens, and spirituality. Of note, on the second verse of the track, Shadowlands, Priest raps about his own commercial failures and how now he's reborn, which based on his performances here, I believe. Overall, this is a really great album, and one I would highly recommend despite its huge length. It's an interesting transition point between Priest's more straightforward raps of the 2000s to the experimental territory of the 2020s. Speaking of, in 2020, Killah Priest dropped his 15th album, Rocket to Nebula. Not to get ahead of myself, but I would declare this not only as my favorite Priest album, but also one of the best rap albums of the past 10 years. Rocket is really an album without peers, standing in its own strange world of wild experimentation. Notably, this album features almost no drums at all, with Priest instead rapping over reverse samples, chanting, and sounds I can't even begin to describe. It's an incredibly unique listen, and one I guarantee is unlike any other hip-hop album you've ever heard. Here, Priest is on fire, dropping quotable after quotable of strange, disorientating bars about religion, spirituality, extraterrestrials, and also about real life too. The track Projects, a backronym for People Relying on Just Enough Cash to Survive, is a masterwork, opening with the lines, "Drizzle rained down my window pane. Up the block was the park and the subway train. We party every Friday till Sunday came. Then it was church, go in my pocket, here's a bunch of change. There's Sister Johnson giving unusual 100 range. She limped in, sat down after she hung up her cane. But my mind was on block parties and the summer games. As the choir sang to the organ, a drummer banged. The preacher had us baptized, but we backslide. Born black with pride, afros high as the Jackson 5. Life here was no picket fence and apple pie. People relying on just enough cash to survive. Another notable track, Magnificent Interview, has priests rapping about interviewing the devil, with him writing memorable bar after memorable bar, as the song slowly dissolves into psychedelic madness. Crazy song. Overall, what praise I could possibly pile on this album wouldn't be enough. An incredible achievement of music, and a project that deserves so much more attention. Masterpiece. Another 2020 album of note is the slightly more grounded The Third Eye in Technicolor, a collaboration with producer Jordan Riverbanks. Remember him? This endeavor is still very psychedelic, but with drums this time, as Jordan Riverbanks drops some of my favorite beats of the decade. Tracks like Beautiful are, well, beautiful, while the song Saffron sounds like the sky collapsing in on itself. Priest's rapping is amazing as well. His rhyming continues to be great as he tells his weird looping stories of Eastern mysticism and self-discovery. A great standout in his discography, and one I think would appeal to most rap fans. 2022 brought us the release of Mother, Priest's most emotional and also shortest outing. Dedicated to the memory of his late mother, this album has Priest ripping his heart out and putting it into music, featuring no drums, this time in exchange with slow piano instrumentals. Instead of rapping about wild psychedelic journeys, he instead commemorates his mother beautifully, showing the real Walter Reed behind his Killah Priest persona. The last track, titled Voicemail to Mom, features no rapping, only a recording of Priest telling his mother that he loves her, ending with, "Till we see each other again." Back to a more lighthearted affair, in 2023, Killah Priest dropped Forest of the Happy Ever After, a concept album about the forest and the animals within it, being another example of Priest pushing the boundaries of what rap can be, this time being more playful than spiritual. Killah Priest raps about bees, parrots, owls, foxes, ants, and spiders, among other things, to make for an extremely unique album. Notably, a few times he raps in what I can only describe as animal voices. Totally off the wall and weird, but I can't help but love it. In contrast to this, however, the closer, Spider, has Priest's voice almost breaking as he ends with the lines, "The daddy longlegs crawls up my memories till the song fades. The cobs is my pillow. The willow. I'm smelling salted caramel and cooked apple notes. The spiderweb catches a ghost." An emotionally resonant end to a very out there project. Not one to miss. That brings us to the current day, with Priest showing no signs of stopping. The last two albums he dropped were his Abraxas albums, both more traditional, yet still weird, rap albums about alchemy and mysticism which have great rapping and great beats. I also want to briefly mention a couple projects that I glossed over. 2017's Don't Sit on the Speakers Volume 1, a collaboration with Fourth Disciple, has Priest rapping over turntable beats reminiscent of late 80s production. 2021's Lord Son Heavy Mental 1.1 has KP rhyming over tribal ambient instrumentals. 2022's Horoscope has Priest rapping about zombies, ghouls, and ghosts for a fun Halloween album. And there's even more. Overall, what I hope you can gather from this video is that Killah Priest has had a long and storied career, going from being in the room where 36 Chambers was recorded, to his appearances on Liquid Swords, to his first forays into music, to his comeback, then his next comeback, to the 2020s wild experimentation of what rap music can even be. If it wasn't already abundantly clear, Priest is one of my favorite rappers ever, and I think he's one of the most unique rappers of all time. A true pioneer whose 4 decades-long career is full of gems, from dark mysterious raps, to hardcore hip-hop, to psychedelic journeys, to emotional confessions. I hope you decide to check some of his music out.